Hey, everybody, it's episode 116 of Mastering Local Marketing, Overlooked Marketing Signals in Real Estate, Insights for Small Business Growth. We're going to talk a lot of real estate. But before we do that, I want to bring something up.
Oh, you had to talk about it. Okay, go for it.
No, I'm not going to talk about it.
You're not going to
But I'm going to tell you what happened here.
Okay.
We're launching a podcast network, and I host a number of them. And on the same day, in the same hour, I host, I think, 6 podcasts. This is one of them. In the same day, in the same hour, I had been doing a podcast for a year with 2 different dudes. They both called me and said, "You're done." At the exact same time.
They canceled you?
Yeah, they canceled me. Say, "Hey, man, I appreciate this, but, I want to go this way, and I want to host it. I want to bring this person on." And that was, Will Galeros. We're doing our last show here in a second, okay? And then the other podcast was...
So it's been
Jim
fun.
Weiss.
This is the intervention. He's kicking me off. No, it's kidding.
Yeah, they're kicking me off. Yeah, and I'm like, this is how it's supposed to go. For 20-some years, 22 years, I bring things in and we do the show for a little while on the radio, or now it's a podcast. And then I know it's going to come to a point where they look at me and I just wait for it. I never push for it. I never tell them. I never ask if they want me to leave. But they have to figure it out. It's just time for me to go. And I've built up their skills, and they're ready to go. I mean, Veterans Views has been here for 21 years. And I used to host it for like 3 years. And one day they felt like they called a breakfast, and they brought me over, and they felt like they were going to hurt my feelings. Hey, we want to do it ourselves. And I'm like, yes, thank you. So I just wonder when
Is this
you're
a call
gonna,
for help?
When you're going to do that to me.
Is this a call for help? Do you want off? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just had to share that with you because I know that you're doing podcasts now. I don't want to talk about your class and all you're doing, okay? But when you go in to start doing it, for a long time it was 25-minute radio shows. I didn't realize it, but those are basically just podcasts. Yeah. So now we've transferred that skill set into doing podcasts, and I'm really excited about it. But you're teaching a class right now where you're going to take them from A to Z on doing a podcast. I just wonder, what's your end game with that? What do you want them to pick out of that? From a marketing, this is a marketing podcast. What are you trying to get out of that?
Why am I teaching them how to do that? Because I feel that those students need to be shown how to go from A to Z and not to just learn something in a book, right? So, again, before we jumped on, I'll say it. We launched 10 podcasts this week in my class. They're all over the place. It will be interesting to see where they go. But the idea was literally launch some kind of content, the podcast, launch a social media account that will promote said podcast. We're going to pay for them to do an advertising campaign on social for the podcast. And then they're going to analyze the SEO. I know we just talked about SEO in the last episode, but the SEO and the keyword analysis of the podcast to rank higher on Apple and Spotify, and Apple or Amazon and YouTube and all the other ones, right? So that's the end game. Is literally I want them to be able to walk out of here tomorrow and say, I can create a product, I can market a product, and here are my results, and here's how I analyzed it all along the way. So that's why we're doing it.
So and the person who runs our podcast network is taking that class, and I was just wondering where that was going. But what I get out of this, and the reason I bring it up for the owner of the small to medium-sized business or the marketer or even if you work there and you want to get into your marketing side, is that more than anything else, Matt always says, overlapping systems. What I see out of your class is a full project. You don't know how to launch you don't know how to launch a podcast. Certainly Adriana does. You don't know how to use AI to develop your graphics and to develop your theme. You don't even know what the topic should be. You don't even know what to talk about. Now you got to make all this content in the first half of the class, and then you got to get really good at marketing your content and buying those ads. You're creating an overlapping system.
I am. So it's taken everything that they've learned, or that they've learned in book and lecture and all this other stuff, but now we're making them implement it. And it was funny. I had 4 students that are in a group, and they launched this new podcast. They've entitled it "Spill the Beans." It's basically a conversation of 20-somethings about things that are going on in their life, and how the world is affecting their growth. I took them in another room. I go, "Who's comfortable on the mic?" And they're like, "Oh, we'll get there." I said, "All right, fine, let's do it." And I just threw them into Riverside. I said, "Start talking." And it was funny that the 2 of them kind of jumped in and went, "Okay." And I could hear them through the door, and they just kept going and going and going. And I thought, all right, they're fine, right? So I think you got to get thrown into things, thrown into the deep end, right, before you can actually do anything. So just go for it.
So to circle that around, the reason I get kicked out of my podcast, which is the end game, not this one. I'll be honest. If you kick me out, I don't care. But
no, I think you on this podcast brings the voice of the small business owner. Right?
Yes.
Like I own small businesses, but I think we need a unique perspective. You're trying to grow something. You've had multiple different business entities and things that you're working on, but you can bring that in. You're talking on a regular basis to those that are out there in the community. So I think you bring that. It's not that we just threw you on a show about, coffee or something like that, right?
Do you know, I have a feeling that this is similar, and it's shared by other small business owners, is that I've learned so much from this podcast, and I'm like, God, I need to be SEO, and I need to be have a better email marketing campaign. My website sucks. I don't have e-commerce. I mean, all of these different things. But the one thing I learned is that you say pick one. Mm-hmm. And we have picked one. We go for the regional business advertiser, and that's kept us, as we've grown, that has kept us in business as kind of a VC-based company. And I want to make that clear to the small business owner that just pick one thing. You're listening to this part, and maybe it doesn't necessarily affect you, but at least you've heard it. But you can't let it be a pressure on you. Like, oh, my God, I don't want to listen to that podcast anymore because I'm not doing all this stuff, and it makes me feel guilty.
I'm not doing all of the stuff that we talk about either, but I've picked 1 or 2 things that I have time to do, right? Or I buy time from other people. So
let's go to real estate.
Yeah, real estate.
In this one, we're going to talk about how signals in real estate can transform your marketing strategies. We dive into how trends like new builds, rising rents, commercial vacancies uncover shifts in customer acquisition and spending behavior before they show up in your sales numbers. If your marketing feels reactive or disconnected from local realities, learn to leverage real estate data as a powerful tool for your proactive local advertising strategies. What does this mean? Love, death, and robots in the Ice Age.
There's this show. It's called Love, Death, and Robots, and there's an episode called Ice Age. Are you familiar with this?
I know the show. I don't know the episode.
So the episode is they have this old freezer, and they open up the freezer, and there's this civilization living in the freezer, right? And they watch it go from like the Ice Age, in caveman to to having a nuclear war and then rebuilding and all of like flying cars and all this stuff. And it's happening quick, right? Like they're watching it develop, right? And I saw a clip about it the other day, and I thought, well, do we ever, from a marketing perspective, really stand back and watch and look at what's going on around us? Now, I love real estate. I love talking real estate. I love kind of identifying areas of opportunity and all that kind of stuff. But it got me thinking about this one. And I said, okay, well, you're going into business, you're opening up a business and you're looking around, where do we want to be? Do we want to be online? Do we want to be in our local town? Is our local town the best fit for us? Is there a changing dynamic? And we are in a, where we live is Northwest Indiana, which, my daughter asked me the other day, she's like, why do they call us the region? And I said, well, they call us the region because Indiana doesn't necessarily claim us, right? Like we're Chicago to them, and Chicago doesn't claim us because we're Indiana. So we're kind of just this thing that they call the region. And the region is, I want to say it's basically the civilization in the freezer. And let me take you down this path. It's changing so fast, and things are happening that if you're running a business in this area, you need to take and look at it. So we have the north side of Lake County, we have the south side of Lake County. Two entirely different, divided by one interstate, US 30, right? Completely, one is more urban, one is more rural. Like you can get bigger yards, you can get all these types of things. Like up here, I can travel or I can walk to a restaurant. Where I live, I can't walk to a restaurant.
From right where we're sitting, you could walk to a restaurant where we ate the other day. You could walk to the largest YMCA in the world, the little big grocery store right down the street. Yes, the density is higher.
So we start to look at what are the developments that are happening. So I've watched this from a rural standpoint because I live in a town. We've got about 20,000 homes in our town, but we have literally one stretch, that has a Target, and we have an Aldi, a Strax, which is a grocery store, and then they're building a Jewel, another grocery store. So we're gonna have 3 grocery stores where literally I could take a baseball and throw it and hit all of them. And we have a Target, which technically is number 4 grocery store. And then there's, we have maybe 3 restaurants that we can eat at. When I say restaurants, I'm talking about we have 2 you can sit down in.
One's a bar.
Yeah, I mean, like there's nothing there. But what we're starting to see is these little pockets. And it happened, for those of you that aren't familiar with our area, it happened in Crown Point because Crown Point used to be the town square, the hub, and then it moved to where the interstate was, right? So out near Broadway, and it blew up over there. And there is, you could probably eat at 100 different restaurants where that is right now. And I'm seeing the same thing happen where I live right now. So there's these little pockets of retail that are starting to sprout, and the shopping is moving to new locations, and the new infrastructure and the new residential is starting to populate in different areas. And as I was driving to the studio today, I was going through this one area on 41, and I've noticed for years people try to put different businesses, different restaurants, all of that in this one little area, and it's the area just south of 30 on 41. And you see this turnover.
Texas Roadhouse, and there's an IHOP there.
Even farther south than that, right? So it's right before you get to Lake Central. And it turns over and over and over again. And you're constantly seeing the change of restaurants and companies.
The big one, North something.
The 41, whatever.
Yeah, it was big. It's a huge restaurant. Yeah.
But
Northwoods.
But do you notice in that one little section how things turn so often? But then you have other areas where companies, we've had these businesses sitting there for years and years and years, but there are dead zones in your area that you have to be aware of. So
where are you going with this?
What I'm trying to say is if you're going to open a business, it's not where I can get the cheapest rent. It's not, there's an opportunity I'm going to put it there. Like when we opened Simply Elegant back in the day, we put it in a business complex. Worst decision of our lives. Rent was cheap, had no windows whatsoever for people to see what it would look like, right? Like we had to pull people into this. And then we realized, that was stupid. Why did we do that, right? We were in more of an industrial area. There were no other retail shops next to us. Like, quickly realized this is a bad location. We need to get out of here, right? And I don't think people put enough thought into where they're going to put their business. They just look at it like, okay, well, let's see what has office space. What can I afford? They don't start to think about all the things that are happening. So you've got all these new developments that are happening around you. You've got traditional developments that have been there that maybe people have moved in and out, right? It's kind of like you see a coffee shop and they're going out of business and somebody goes, oh, I'm going to go buy that coffee shop. Well, that's the third coffee shop that's been in there. Why are you buying that? Because quite honestly, unless you're a genius at marketing, you're going to have the same fate, right? So when we look at real estate, you have to look at the development. You have to look at where things are going. But I personally think nobody looks into this, and the smart ones do, because we've got there are certain staples that you can look at, right? The Walmarts and the Starbucks. I always say if you can find a Walmart or a Starbucks and get as close to that as possible, you're in good shape. And you say, why is that? Well, you don't think they go build a 100,000 square foot Walmart just on a whim, right? They do all kinds of research, understand who's going to be shopping, how's the traffic getting to them. It's the same thing with Starbucks. They don't just put those up to put them up. They look at traffic patterns, they look at migration patterns, they look at population density, all of these different things. So if you focus on what's happening around you, you'll find the right location, even finding a place that's going to start populating more. So we're in Northwest Indiana, and we have a huge push from Illinois. They're moving over, right? Huge taxes in Illinois. They're jumping over the border. Chicago, they're moving out of Chicago. They're coming over to us, and they're just commuting to Chicago if they're going to work there. What has happened to us? Huge density problem, right? Our infrastructure is getting very, very congested, but you're seeing a lot of new buildup. Even out in the rural areas on the roads that typically were just cornfields 10 years ago, are major retail developments being built up, right? So if you identify those patterns, it's not just like, a lot of people will say, oh, well, I look at billboards and I can get the numbers. Yeah, that's what we're saying. Look at the traffic patterns to understand how many people drive by an area and how easy it is to get to you if you are a destination in your business. Does that make sense?
So you are talking to a lot of retail people, a lot of people that have 2 or 3 locations. That would be small to medium-sized business. And you're telling them or us to look at the patterns around you for opportunities.
Right.
Simple. There are people listening that are my HVAC guy. I guess got a plumber dude that was just texting me. They need to look at these patterns for a different reason, because they almost don't want to be in these neighborhoods, right? Because eventually they're going to be priced out with their rent and their taxes.
Right.
So they're almost got to run from it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at the type of residential units that are being built, the type of commercial that's being built in those areas. Is it an R1? Is it, R4? And what we mean by that is residential 1. You can only build one house on a lot, or is it R4 where you can build a fourplex, right? So if you have tons of apartment complexes going up, those are transient people that typically move more often than not. People that aren't buying homes, right? So maybe they have credit issues that they can't buy a home. Maybe they don't have the money to buy a home. Maybe they just don't want to buy a home. But on the flip side, do you have $1 million homes in your area? I mean, those are those are completely different customer bases, right? So if you're selling furniture and your cheapest piece of furniture is $10,000, you're probably not opening up next door to an apartment complex.
So,
right?
When you look at these patterns, Mr. Data, what one piece of data stands out to you?
Population growth.
Explain.
So here in Northwest Indiana, we have a variety of different counties, but it equates to roughly the size of San Francisco, right? So that's what we are.
Hey, Joe, can you open the front door there for somebody? Yeah, sorry about that. He's out there freezing his butt off. I would normally wait, but we'll just pull this out of the podcast.
All right,
but
so with that, we're going to kick Jim off the podcast because he's no, just kidding.
The guy's texting me. He's like, "Hey, dude, we're recording this. It is 2 degrees outside. If you're somewhere else or in a different season,
Yeah.
But I know that my buddy's waiting out there to do the next podcast, and he's just jumping up and down, like, you idiot, answer to you." Like,
Keys on the side of the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So the population growth data. Go on, keep going.
Yeah. So if people are moving into your area, that means more dollars are flowing into your area, right? More people are going to pass by wherever you're putting your location. If you are seeing shrinking population, if you're in a town that's shrinking, right? So for example, when I look at real estate, many of the times I'll look at, is the city growing? If it's shrinking, if I can go buy a home for $30,000, odds are that's probably not a really good place to be buying, right? Because supply and demand, right? So if I can buy a house for $30,000 or that same house is costing $500,000 in California, we've got to look at what's going on here, right? So you chase the population, you chase the dollars, because you don't want to be sitting there waiting for somebody to drive by your location. And when they do drive by, you don't want them to drive by with no money in their pocket, right? So you're always looking for population and discretionary income that they can spend with you.
From a digital market or from a local marketing perspective, why are we talking about this?
Because I've seen way too many companies just go into a location without even giving it a second thought.
Including you.
Including me. We've done it.
Including me.
Yep. Everybody has done it.
Yes.
And we're all kicking ourselves
Did I ever
for
tell
it.
you about the coffee shop?
No.
I had the best theme. It was called Steel Toe Joe.
Okay.
Here we are.
Based on your boots.
Yeah, we're in one of the most industrial areas of America, largest steel mills, largest inland refinery. I mean, it's all industry. And then I had a theme, and I paid a bunch of money for the logo and everything. God, I remember now. This was 20-some years ago, 25 years ago. I paid $4,000 for the logo. Mm-hmm. Now you would put it into AI, and there it would be. It didn't cost you anything. But I had it, and then I put it in downtown Hammond. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever drove by there to go there, and there was no parking in front. You had to go around and park way in the back. It was a horrible location. Yep. God, now that I think about this, I wish I had listened to this podcast, this episode 116 of the Mastering Local Marketing podcast. Then, exactly, we had great drinks, great coffees, great lattes. Mm-hmm. We had real good sandwiches that you could just grab and they were fresh, and it totally flopped. Yeah. Nobody ever drove up. In the building, maybe some people came down, but it sucked. I remember my daily take was $129.
Not even worth opening
It was not. Yeah. It didn't even cover the rent.
Yeah. Well, and we had kind of a similar thing. We were in the square in Crown Point, and great location, tons of traffic drives by, but try to get parking. You have to walk, right? So you circle around the square a few times. Okay, never mind. I'm not stopping there, right? And we heard that over and over and over again. When are you guys going to move somewhere with parking? Great location, tons of traffic, impossible to get to, right? I remember they would, they chalk your tires out there, so we couldn't park in the square even because the police would, it's a 2-hour parking. So I get it. If you're having problems just looking at the property, trying to get, where you want to be, your customers are going to have the exact same problem.
Episode 116, Overlooked Marketing Signals in Real Estate Insights for Small Business Growth. This is a little bit off the track of what we would normally do, but very important to a small, I guess, a niche part of you that are always looking to expand, maybe put in another one of your pizza places or another cleaners or another perhaps retail location, another restaurant, that kind of thing. Takeaway?
Here's a trick. Go into realtor.com and search for data on days on market for houses and see how long the houses have been sitting. If it's, if you can pull that data and it's been 20 days and you've got another town that's at 60 days, you know exactly where people are moving.
He's Matt Hansen. I'm Jim Dietlow. Until next time, see you later.